Hello friends, welcome to Quick Chess Videos. Today we are going to see the game of Indian Grandmaster Vidit Santosh Gujrathi, who in a very balanced position managed to outplay Peter Leko. Without wasting any time, let's jump to the game. The game opened with c4, c5. This is the English opening. g3. White wants to put his bishop on the long diagonal. g6. Black also tries to do the same. Bishop g2, bishop g7, knight c3, developing the knight. Knight c6. Black also does the same thing. Knight f3, d6, developing pieces. Castle. White brings his king to safety. Rook b8. Black wants to play the idea of a6 and b5. White plays a3 with the same idea to bring his rook to b1 and start pushing b4. Black plays a6. White follows his plan of expanding on the queen side by rook b1. Black plays b5. White captures pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawns, and now black is threatening the move d4. So to stop that, white himself plays b4 and blocks the queen side. Leko takes the pawn, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Now he finishes his development. Now Vidit controls the center more by playing d4. Leko completes development, bishop f5, attacking the rook on b1. The rook needs to be protected. White moves the rook to b3 and pawn d5, controlling in the center. Knight e5. Now Vidit is starting to create an attack. The knight e5 is threatening the knight on c6. So Leko protected it with queen b6, and he himself attacks the pawn on d4. White plays bishop e3, defending the pawn. If black takes the knight, then after pawn takes pawn, that would be a very great discovery. So instead, Leko plays bishop e6, protecting the pawn on d5. Vidit brings his knight to d3. He wants to bring his knight to c5 to attack the bishop. If black is greedy and captures knight, captures pawn, then there would be a very terrible pin, and this loses material. So instead, black went for castling. White played knight c5 according to his plan. Rook fd8, protecting the pawn. White plays rook a3 in order to bring the rook to a6. Black challenges it with rook a8. If he captures the pawn on b4, then white has a very nice trick, queen b1, attacking the knight. If the knight goes back, then there is rook a6, again attacking the queen. Queen has to move, and there is bishop f4, and black loses the exchange. So instead of capturing the pawn, black plays rook a8. White exchanges the rooks and plays queen b3. White wants to attack on d5. Black defends it with queen d8. White plays rook c1 in order to bring all his pieces into the game. If now rook b8 in order to protect the pawn, then white has a very nice beautiful trick. Knight captures pawn, f captures pawn, and knight captures d5, making a discovery on the knight. So instead of rook b8, black played rook c8. Now white just grabs the pawn on b5. Black plays queen b6. white plays knight captures bishop, pawn captures knight, and again a very beautiful and strong move, bishop h3. Now if black captures the knight, then bishop would capture on e6 and the rook would be lost. So black decides to play king f7. Now to protect, white has to protect this knight as it is hanging. So white played rook c5. Black went on to bring his rook to the open file. If knight d7, then white has a very beautiful tactical shot, which is bishop captures pawn, and it would be over. So black played rook a8, bishop f4, improving the pieces, threatening to play bishop c7, knight d8, bishop c7, queen b7, queen f3, pinning the knight, bishop h6, bishop e5. White is a pawn up and he's doing very good. Bishop g7. White brings the king to g2 to stop any checks from the square. Black plays h5, g4, and white tries to, again he wants to play g5 and try to check, try to win the piece. So black is forced to capture on g4. Bishop captures on g4. Rook a4, attacking the pawn. White plays queen b3, attacking the rook. Black cannot capture the bishop as the rook is hanging. So black first protects the rook by moving the rook. Now white captures the knight, captures knight bishop, and he plays e3. And now we can see that white is in total control of the position. Black played rook b6, attacking the knight. White played bishop e2, knight c6, trying to bring the pieces into the game again. Queen a4, king g7, f4. Now black plays rook a6 in order to attack the queen. White plays queen b3, protecting the queen. Rook b6, and here Leko hopes for a draw, but it won't be a draw as white will not repeat the position. Played bishop d3. Black played knight a7, attacking the knight. If the knights get exchanged, then probably the opposite color bishops, there will be good chances for black to hold. So white denied the exchange of the knights and played knight c7, a very strong move, trying to create some attacks like this. Black captured the pawn on b4. Knight captures pawn check on the king. If the king goes to h7, then white can play queen d1 with the idea queen h5 check, and due to this pin, and white will then have probably a very good winning attack. So black played king f7, which allows this double attack, knight d8 check. King went back to g7, and here white had many options. He could take the queen or he could take the pawn. Vidit chose to take the pawn on d5. Queen captures d5, rook captures d5, rook b3. Now pause the video and try to think for white how to materialize the advantage. White has two extra pawns. Yes, the correct move is knight e6 and knight c5. Kudos if you have found that plan. So the bishop is now protected, and as well as the rook is attacked. Black has to play rook, move the rook b2 check. White goes king g3, knight c6, bringing the king. Now white plays rook d7, trying to create some mating attacks on the king. Knight b4 attacking the bishop. Bishop c4, white saves the bishop. Knight c2, black is attacking the pawn on e3. White plays again a very powerful move, knight d3, attacking opponent's rook. You cannot capture the pawn. Black played rook b1, protecting the rook. White played king f3, g5, trying to exchange more and more pawns. Whenever you are material down, you should try to exchange pawns as possible. White takes the pawn on g5, bishop takes on g5, and it would seem that there is some problem in the position, but white plays a very beautiful move which we can see that opponent's king is in weakness. He played the move knight e5, trying to create very strong threats of checkmating the king. Black played king g7. If black captures the knight on e3, then there is a very beautiful move h4, attacking the bishop. If bishop captures pawn, then the knight would be lost. And if black plays the move bishop captures e3, then white has a very beautiful double attack, knight g4, which would decide the game. So instead black played the move king g7 in order to go away from this all checks. Now white plays again a very fantastic move to show how weak black's king is. He plays rook d8 and the king is in very big trouble. Black takes the pawn on e3. White gives the check on g8. King goes to h7. If the king goes to f6, then there is again the same double attack with knight g4, and white would win the bishop of black. And if black goes king h6, then there is same double attack with knight g4, and white is again winning. So instead he played king h7, and after took g6, his idea is to play bishop g8 check, king goes up, and there is knight f7 checkmate. So to stop bishop g8 check, he plays rook b8. Now white plays bishop d3, hoping for one more discovery. Black played rook f8 check, but white played a very beautiful rook f6 double attack, and a beautiful game by the Indian Grandmaster. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe. Waiting for you in the next video. Bye bye.